Hey, it's Brian Fleming. I want to give you a quick tip about how I deliver speeches without notes, because that can be really difficult, but I think it's probably everybody's ideal. You've probably heard people say professional speakers don't use notes. Well, that's not entirely true. From what I recall, Jim Rohn used notes, and so Zig Ziglar, I think, used a lot of notes too. But the less you have to look at notes is probably the better. And so I want to share with you real quick how I'm able to do that. It's a technique that I learned from a guy named Ron White. He lives in Grapevine, Texas. He's a military veteran. He's like a two-time American memory champion. So this guy really knows memory. And I bought his course, and he talked about this. In fact, I think Grant even mentioned it very briefly in one of the videos in the course. But he talked about how to create anchor points in your mind and how to create your environment, create a room that you go around in your mind throughout your speech. And real quick, over maybe the next 5 to 10 minutes, I want to tell you how that's literally worked for me, because there's hope for you if you want to memorize your speeches, because I actually have a mild traumatic brain injury from my time in the military. You know, there are a couple of them, actually. There are days when I literally couldn't remember what I had for breakfast, but then I'm going up and giving a speech. Well, that's pretty scary. If you can't remember what you had for breakfast some days and now you're giving a speech, what if you forget what you're going to say? Yeah, that's a really real fear, very real. In fact, there was even one time I was in a restaurant with my original mentor, the guy who taught me to speak, and his grandson walked in when we were done. And he said, "Hey, how's the food here?" And I said, "Oh, it's good." He said, "Yeah, what'd you have?" Well, my plate was already clean. And I just kind of stared at him. I couldn't remember what I had just eaten, minutes before. So I only tell you this to say, if you don't have worse memory issues than me, then this will probably work amazing for you. And there's lots of things out there, research it. But I spoke in Orlando last week, and it's probably 500 people. And somebody walked up to me afterwards, and this guy said, "Dude, you didn't use notes your entire talk. I didn't see you look at notes once." And I didn't really realize it, but I don't think I did. I think I glanced at them once toward the end because I had something I didn't want to forget and I wanted to say it a certain way. But that was somebody actually said that. So that's called a clue. So here's the thing. Here's what I do. Sorry this is taking long. I'm going to try and keep this under 10 minutes, but it's important. If you get this, I think it'll really help you give speeches without using notes. And so here's the deal. Ron White says and he probably didn't come up with this, but he says, I learned it from him, he says to picture a room in your house with different items in the room. And just go around left to right, go around the room, look at different things. So I'm standing here in my kitchen, living room, kitchen. There's my German Shepherd, Maverick. All right, so here's what I do with the speech. My speech is called How to Stand Firm When Everything Around You is Blowing Up. I talk about resilience, overcoming challenges, things like that. That's my inspirational keynote. There's no real specific content to that except the inspiration value, which meeting planners love to book. And so I usually start off by saying something like, "Hey, how many of you want to have more happiness and fulfillment in your life?" And then they'll raise their hands and say yes. "How many of you want to have more success in your life, in your career? How many of you want to have better relationships?" And then I joke and I say, "How many of you wish I'd stop asking you questions that end with you saying yes? Say yes." And so they laugh and a joke. But I'm getting them to do something. And if you can get them engaged early on, it kind of grips their attention. Well, to remember what I'm going to say, I have these 3 cupboards right here. 1, 2, 3. 3 cupboards right here in my kitchen. So Ron White says to literally imagine some sort of crazy or outlandish action concerning the item. So in my mind, I'm starting here at the cupboards in my kitchen. And I'm imagining someone popping out super, super happy, going, "Hey," because, hey, how many of you want to be more happy, have more meaning in your life? I say, how many people want to have more money and success in their career? And that's where this second one comes in. Adjusting my lens here. That's where the second one comes in. In my mind, I picture some cheesy, stereotypical used car salesman with money sunglasses, money sign sunglasses and hands full of cash popping out of there, because that reminds me, okay, ask them about money, success. How many of you want to have better relationships or something like that? And I imagine people walking down the aisle, coming out of the cupboard. Those are my coffee mug collections. And then I say, well, that's ideal, isn't it? This ideal is great when everything goes the way you want it to, but we all know that doesn't happen, right? Now I'm going into the problem. Well, this is my ice maker, and if I push that button without a cup under it, ice blows out everywhere, all over the floor. It makes a mess. And I say, so I go from these things, what they want, and I go, but today I want to talk to you about how to stand firm when everything around you is blowing up. Because we all get blown up, don't we, in life? And that's the blown up trigger in my mind, the anchor point, is ice blowing out of this. So I literally picture ice blowing out of this thing. And then next to that, I have the blender. Now I go into talking about usually 3 different areas of life for just a minute. I talk about how people get blown up in their careers, they lose jobs, they lose money. So I picture like money signs blowing off this blender without a lid on it. If you've ever done that, it goes everywhere, don't do that. But then I also imagine like wedding rings flying out of there. And so it's like, oh, that didn't work out. Relationships die, we get hurt that way, people get divorced. Coworkers and friends sometimes stab us in the back or they betray us. It happens, right? And so I'm really digging at a lot of common pains that people have. Well, then I say, I imagine like a medical tag or dog tags flying out of here because it has your blood type on them if you're in the military. And I say, sometimes we get a bad diagnosis from the doctor. And so, and I talk about unexpected things happening because that's my content. And then I come over here. Now, these knives have what? These knives have a point on the tip. So I literally use the word point. I say, so what's my point in telling you all this? And I literally look at them and I give a pause for a second or two of silence. And I say, bad things are going to happen to you in life. And then I say, now I know what a lot of you are thinking. This guy is the worst motivational speaker ever. Like, Brian, you should be more positive. I'm positive. Bad things are going to happen. It's going to rain. All right? Things happen in life. So I get them laughing, but that was my anchor point. So I pivot on them from the bad thing, all this stuff going bad, and I say, what's my point? Because, as a motivational speaker, or whatever you want to call it, you're supposed to be uplifting and everything else, but yeah, that's the point. But also it's like, man, bad things are going to happen. So it's more important that it's more important about how you respond to what happens to you rather than what happens to you. Now look at this microwave. It kind of looks like a TV, right? Well, that's my trigger. The microwave is my trigger to start talking about my personal story. That's probably about 10% of my talk, like my past, what I've been through. You need that connection with people. You need that credibility that you've gone through something and gotten through it, or that you've done what you're teaching. Well, I just envision this as a TV, and TVs, you watch stories, you watch movies, you watch TV shows. And so I go into my story. All right, and so that's my whole point. Now there are a few other things I do. I go around the room. I actually end over there by the love seat over there. But my point is this: all these little things, I have these little wild things in my mind that they trigger the next thing I'm going to talk about. And the crazier the action is in my mind coming out of that cupboard, or as my 10th grade biology teacher said, she said, the raunchier you can make it, the more you'll remember it. I'm not going there. That was her advice. It actually works. but I'm not going there. But anything you have to do to remember what's going to happen, if I'm talking about this thing, what comes out of the next cupboard? What comes out of the third one? What's your anchor point? Ice blowing out of there, things blowing up in life. Then, giving examples, the blender. So what is it in your talk? Go around a room in your house and just pick items that you know the order they're in, going left to right. That's how I'm able to give 30, 45, 60-minute keynotes without using notes. And I'm a guy with memory issues. So if you don't have memory issues, I really think this would work for you. And it works so well that, again, the guy in Orlando even said, dude, you didn't even use any notes, like the whole time. And he was a stranger. I'd never seen him before. But he noticed it, and the whole event was amazing. It went great. So think about, I would say, pick a room in your house, and then pick the items and go around and attach items to a memory anchor point and throughout your talk, chronologically as you go through your talk. And by the time you get all the way over there it is, that's pretty much the end of your talk. And now you've given an entire talk by memory without using notes, or at least most of the time. Comment below if you've done something else. I'd love to hear it. because I'm always trying to learn. That's why I'm in this program. There's always something I probably don't know or I can be doing better. So hope that's helpful for you.